There it is. We got the intro. I like that intro. Good morning,
Yeah, it
Tony.
works. So, Jimmy, you're going to Chicago. What's going
Yeah.
on there?
Yeah, I like ideas. I mean, people know this. I was talking with Will Humphreys yesterday, and he was explaining me to me. I love when people do that. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And he's like, yeah, he's like, you and I are like similar. Like, we like ideas. So I'll bring it on screen for those who are watching the live stream. But there's this idea of this like movement or event that is put on several times. I've been following this guy. His name is Alex Koshyev. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but I'll say it. He'll correct me because I'm going to interview him in person in Chicago. And he's a tech CEO. He's a dude who loves being in and around tech and healthcare. Good morning, Dave. And
Morning.
he's got these events called Health to Tech. If you were around physical therapy 6 or 7 years ago, gosh, it was that long. There were things called PT pub nights where you would just say, I want to have a pub night in my town, and pub night would put it on this calendar and maybe like in a Facebook group and post about it. But that's it. You were sort of on your own. And this guy is sort of doing that, but he sort of controls more of it. And he just rotates. He's got Chicago, New York, Boston. I've seen Philly and DC and Tel Aviv. And he puts people in the room who are at the intersection, if you had a Venn diagram, of health and technology. And the event is like, go there, you register just to see who's going, right? You want to peep who's going, who's going to be there. And there's a presentation given, or like, a little presentation. I'm going tonight. The presentation is, I'll have to look, guest speaker, managing partner at Wolcott and Winnemac, holds an MHA, technology and healthcare. And the idea is the real magic. Obviously, the presentation might be of interest to you, but it's who else is in the room. Sure. These are mixers, man. These are professional elbow rubbing events. I don't know if I should strap on my hockey elbow pads. Could be a lot of elbow rubbing going on. And I was thinking, this was the thing I was kicking to you guys. When my good ideas come is usually like at 9:45 when I'm sitting on the couch. And I'm like, let me fire off some DMs or emails. So here was the pitch. Take Alex's idea, but maybe twist it to more healthcare technology. And we'll stay within physical therapy because that's where I live right now, right? That's where we all live. And what if you picked up like some companies? Now you guys shout out some names. Like Vald comes to mind because they've got really great technology, like for measuring things in clinics. Little sport heavy, but yeah. You've got your Shockwave. We've got Athelis, right, for their AI scribe. That's like hands-on. Hyperice would be great. Things like that. And now you could get a little bit further away from just tangible technology, and you could do something like Sarah Health for remote therapeutic monitoring. And the same pitch would be, all right, we're going to go, you have to do it in population dense centers. East Coast is a little easier if you were going to make a tour, because I want to make a t-shirt, like a rock tour t-shirt. This is where we're going on tour. And we would roll into Boston. I would get a van. I would like, because we want to have the true rock star experience. And we would roll into Boston and we'd throw an event, same format as Alex. But instead of one speaker, I would say, okay, we're going to do like, everybody gets like a 10-minute, hey, here's who I am and what I do. And I'll be over here showing off my handheld dynamometer, yada, yada. And here's who I am and what I do. I'll be over here. And now it's elbow rubbing time and shaking hands. I don't know if Vald or these companies would do an event in Boston just for themselves. Maybe they would. But if they could be part of it, like none of them would be competitors. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I would do Hyperice, but I wouldn't do like, I don't even know who a competitor of Hyperice is. I don't know. They're kind of Nike, but and this way you get hands-on touch time, so both parties win. I want a non-scary way, no commitment to go test this stuff out and really ask questions and see who else in my market is like doing. What did you see? Well, I like this. And if you're Hyperice or Vald or Athelis, you're saying you're getting feedback, but someone might close a deal right there. You might say, you know what? I want 5, dozen pairs of Normatec boots for my 80 clinics in Chicago because I'm the guy who does this and I got hands on. So what are your thoughts? Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask Dave, remind me, you're in Brooklyn?
Yep.
Where's Jerry Durham?
Nice to meet you, Tony. Good morning.
Well, because everybody outside of New York, it's just New York. Like New Yorkers are like, where are you? You're like in New York. You're like, but where are you?
Is Jerry Durham in Philly or is he in New York?
He's in Philly.
He's in Philly. I think I don't know if
Okay.
you guys know.
Okay.
He's moving back to Cali.
What?
Yeah, I
That
don't know if
news?
I'm
I
break.
didn't
I
know
don't know if
that.
I'm. I
What?
don't know if I'm breaking news. I'm sorry,
Oh,
Jerry.
boy.
I feel like we need a
that's private.
breaking. We need a breaking news thing, like breaking news. Breaking. You heard it first. I did not know that. That is monumental.
All right. So to Jimmy's point, yeah, I love it. I've always loved it. I think more of these in-person live social events is awesome. I think getting hands-on, with physical product is great, but like you said, it's who else is in the room. Rubbing elbows and other things with other successful people is always going to be the way to go.
So I'm going to
We got to
Chicago.
get Dave to host something in New York.
So I'm going to Chicago. You'll love this. I thought I booked my flight. I don't know. When I start clicking around on flights and comparing, that's not a Jimmy task. Like, I need a virtual assistant. I thought I booked my flight for Wednesday morning at 9:50. It is tonight, Tuesday night at 9:50 p.m. So I'm landing in Chicago like 1 in the morning for no reason. I'm like 12 hours early. I'm like, whatever. I'll be there.
I've done the
Chicago
scroll
breakfast
thing, like when you're moving down the page and then you use the wheel and the wheel changes your date and you book the wrong flight. I've done that before.
It's the worst. The worst. So yeah. So I'm going to Chicago. I'm going to test one of these events out. So I'm going to interview Alex, who is the guy, like the founder, Ukrainian immigrant, like fled Ukraine, like cool backstory, but pretty innovative because he's like, how do I get people who are buyers and sellers of this technology in the room? He's like, I'm going to be the real estate agent. So he just rents real estate, bars or whatever he does, this bars and restaurants, and he facilitates the exchange. And he probably benefits because he's a tech CEO. I don't even know what his tech business is, but I look at Alex and I'm like, dude, you figured it out. This is a good idea. So I'm going to steal it. But
Nice.
different.
So I want to go straight to Dave. I want to talk about hiring and payment structures, salaries. I shared a post on LinkedIn. It's actually 2 posts that kind of are the same thing. What do you think, Dave, in regards to what you're offering your clinicians, your PTs? I know you're not using PTAs. Is there still any value to a PT with 15 years experience makes more than a PT with 1 year experience? Does experience have any value? If it's just the general experience, you don't even know what that, experience could have been. And then what about even like a PTA earning more than a PT for patient care? I mean, what's your personal philosophy on that?
So typically, yes, but it's not what you think.
Okay.
It's not. It's not just years of experience. It's typically the full package of the person, right? So if let's say there's a PT who has never worked any service based. They never worked in a restaurant. They never did like a service based consumer facing job when they were younger. And then you have a PTA with the same years of experience, but they used to work at a restaurant. I'm trying to, like, my first real job was working in a batting cage where we were fixing batting cages, but also taking people's money to sell them, frozen Slurpees and poorly heated up pretzels. But then also part of the job at the batting cage was helping the moms and the dads with hosting birthday parties with like 20 kids running around. Then you get tips cash with that. So I had a ton of consumer facing jobs when I was younger. If there's a PTA that has done those things and then they come in to interview with me, and some of that typically rubs off. So the years of experience, the clinical years of experience, no, I agree, Tony, doesn't necessarily translate to more money. But in the interview process, in this case, it could be a PTA that could probably impress me or wow me in terms of how they've responded, because we ask questions like, tell me about a time when you had a challenging patient or client in rotations or your first job, or tell me about a time when you had a challenging professor or like an issue with a coworker or a classmate or something. So tell me about a time when. And those are the best interview questions, because those answers tell you about the person's past and how they've dealt with and interacted with challenges and struggles and confrontation and settling disputes and things like that. Like problem or dispute resolution, those types of things. Those types of things tell me a ton about that person. So it doesn't matter if that PTA only has 3 years of experience and a PT has 8 years of experience. Will we start the PT off at a higher rate? Probably. But if the PTA comes in and like they're getting all the word of mouth referrals, they're getting all the Google reviews, whatever, and then they turn to us and say, hey, I want you to pay me this much more, it's easy for me to say, sure, yeah, of course. Like you are demonstrating not just, we're not even talking about the clinical competence. We're not talking about like getting people better in less visits or whatever. So does that make a little sense?
Yeah, for sure. Jimmy, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I love that question. That past question is great. I would love to pair that up with that question that I learned from Jamie Schreier, which is like, if you were to leave 5 years from now, what do you think the reason would be? I think those two questions, if you asked them back to back, could get your past and your vision and be like, got it. This is a great fit or not fit. But this is where I'm saying like Tony and Dave would have totally different approaches, not just because they're Tony and Dave to this, because you have to understand who's paying you. So would you pay someone more if they have 15 years experience? Tony knows who's paying him. Insurance companies, do they care? Nope. They don't care still. Still, it's 2025. They don't care. Where Dave, I bet you, is saying, could this person fit on my roster? Like, could I charge a premium for this? Would I pay for this? Like, you're probably getting vibe. You're looking at them more like PT Barnum. Like, is this a showstopper, or is this someone who's going to be out in the crowd, sort of doing a little juggling and some sleight of hand, or is this somebody who's going to be in the center ring? So understanding who it is that's paying.
And how much of now, of course, everyone's going to get onboarded and coached and mentored and all that. But how much of my time and effort and my time and effort is still money away from my family or whatever, or working out or visiting you guys or whatever. So how much of my time and effort and money do I need to pour into this person? We're going to pour into any new therapist or clinician or whatever, regardless. But do they need like significant amount of hand holding? If so, like we probably should even hire them.
Yeah. How many miles are you going to get per ounce of effort to put in, right?
And I could pay you more if you require less hand holding and support. And I can't mention names, but like I've had a physical therapist in the past who was out of the gates like in an excellent fashion. But then there was a bunch of communication breakdowns. There were a bunch of communication issues. They just weren't following processes. They didn't have patients' date and time confirmed for the next visit over email or text message, which is one of our processes. It was just verbal. Oh yeah, Tony, like we're confirmed for Wednesday at 5 p.m. And then then the patient late canceled or something. Then the therapist is like, oh, you're gonna pay me for that missed visit, right? And it's like, well, was the visit confirmed? Like, can you show me, like, is there a screenshot of the email or text? And then it's like, no response. And it's like, I mean, it's the processes are very clear, So that someone like that requires more hand holding. They're less likely to get a raise. They have no leverage or less leverage to ask for a higher level of compensation or more responsibilities or more new cases and more evals or whatever, right? So again, in my model, like in the beginning of the interview process, does just to go back to Tony's LinkedIn post, a therapist shared, I have 15 years of experience, but the company wants to pay me the same rate as a new grad. Well, that's the difference between an insurance in-network based model where like Tony respectfully doesn't have, like, he's going to look at whoever is the clinician the same amount, right? So like Tony's got his wife treating patients, but if it was someone else from the outside, it's like the insurance is paying for this, this bare minimum to be completed, X amount of, whatever units and visits, and we're billing units and they're all paid the same. So in that world, in that ecosystem, no, like it makes sense where everyone potentially is paid the same. In my world, where we could potentially charge more over time or raise our rates or whatever, like absolutely there's more of a buffer and someone can actually make more money or demand more money regardless of their years out of school or in their years working.
Yeah, I think it's such an important aspect to this is understanding the value. Just like, you know, if you're selling to the patient, what do they care about? What's important to them? I've got an interesting Facebook ad with some comments that I can share later if we want. But when I'm looking at an employee in a third party payer system, you know, I've got very specific expectations, and it's not you need to be the most skilled, you need to be the most expert, you need anything. It's, do your patients like coming? Are your patients going to cancel less? Are your, you know, plans of care going to be completed? They're very technical things because I don't need you to sell or convert a patient. They're already coming expecting to come. It's just such a different experience here. And if I'm bringing you into a team, like we stopped hiring years ago because I didn't want to deal with the battles of, I'm bringing you onto a team. Every team is going to have politics, no matter how much you try to avoid it, even at its smallest.
100%.
So it's like, do I really want to deal with those challenges? Probably not. But if I found somebody who I knew had high retention rates, high completed plans of care, and could handle the politics of my particular office, I'd hire you in a second, and I'd pay you more than somebody who might be a clinical specialist or an expert in some area. But, and maybe that person could even generate more profit, but it doesn't matter because it's going to cause so many problems in the rest of the organization. And as much as I'm saying that now, I remember going back to when we would, you know, apply for a job at a hospital, or we'd apply for a job at some other large organization. It was less about performance and it was more about making the person who's hiring us look good to the person that they want to impress above them. There are just so many different dynamics. But I keep seeing posts around LinkedIn and Facebook about, well, I have this much experience and I have these certifications and I have these other. A lot of times it just depends on where you're trying to get the job. What's important to that person who is hiring you, whether it's the owner or the HR department or whoever.
I don't think I was ever taught this, but I think I just understood it, or maybe I was taught, but maybe maybe someone showed me. But like, I realized my job was always like, well, this fits my personality as I'm saying this out loud. My job was always get my boss to like be happy. I was like, I want my boss to like me, and like make your boss's life easier. And like, then they'll go out of their way. You'll be the last person cut, right? The person
that's delivering value. Yeah.
And it's like, so I figured that out. Like, I don't think it was conscious. I think it was like probably part of my personality. Is like, I need people to like me. But like, hey man, that fits. That worked in business.
I remember one of the things that caused my wife and I to leave the hospital we worked for. Now, we weren't married at the time. We just kind of knew each other, but we share similar personality traits. Was we realized it wasn't about how good of a job we did. We looked around and we realized all of the people leaving or getting fired were amazing clinicians. The ones who stayed in that setting were good enough not to get fired, but didn't rock the boat. Yeah. Didn't introduce change, didn't try to make things better, didn't do anything that would make supervisors or managers put more effort into keeping them employed. Everybody who wanted things to be better, they were gone because it just made more work for management. And that's the challenge to working for a larger organization like that. You know, this was a hospital. They're not in growth mode. They're not getting paid more. Nothing is changing. They want the status quo. If you're going to mess that up, that's not the place for you.
That's why when I went to go work at I won't say which hospital. It doesn't really matter which hospital. When I went to work at a hospital, people were like, you will not work. That will not work. And I was like, sure, it will. I'll just bring my thing to this big organization. And it's like, it's great. A bigger platform. And spoiler, it did not work. It was horrible. It was a horrible idea. It wasn't the size. It was exactly what you just said. What do they value? What problems do they have? Jimmy Rock. I was brought here to gain attention. Well, can you do it but more in line of the standard operating procedure? And I was like, that's not, you did that. Why yeah, that explained it. Where were you before I took that job? Kendrick says people have no idea what it takes to run an organization.
Amen.
But I mean, where are you taught that? You're taught that in your one or two class, like barely taught that in a class in PT school. But to Dave's credit, what he says, did you ever work retail? Have you ever worked food service? Have you ever been told you suck to your face, even though you didn't do anything wrong? You just delivered the burger that sucked, and you have to smile and say, you're right. Let me take that off your bill. Let me get you another one. Like that builds some character in there.
How do you guys personally respond to that kind of very black and white objective? Now, of course, there's a level or a threshold where it becomes demeaning, belittling, like condescending. But I'm just saying, I just had this conversation earlier this morning, so it's fresh in my mind.
Did you?
Multiple times in my career, I've had conversations where, and maybe I'm a little spectrumy and I don't even realize it, but I've had conversations where there's no filter because I thought I have a level of connection and trust with the person I'm talking to, where I could say very clearly, very black and white, look, here's the deal. These are the objective numbers. This is the situation. How are we going to move forward between you and I in this situation? I thought it was an excellent conversation. I thought it was emotionless. I thought everything was objective and there's no way anybody could get upset, only to find out later, a week later, a month later, that like this person was, slapped in the face in their mind, and that I completely betrayed them or whatever.
We need more details here. Was this the lady that wrote you the 1-star Google review last year?
Wait, was this no, this is someone internal.
Yeah. It's usually either an employee conversation or it's a tenant landlord conversation. It's a professional. It's not a patient interaction. But I'm just like, for you guys personally, I'm curious, how do you respond to what, should be an objective discussion about just pure metrics? Just these are the numbers. It doesn't matter how you feel. There should be no emotion connected to. And this leads into a post where I said the reason why therapists have such a hard time owning therapy businesses is because we are too emotional. We're too connected to the business.
Yeah.
And another person came back saying that I something about being ridiculous, and what if I told my wife was she was too emotional. And the ultimate irony here was the entire response was all emotion led. You are clearly too emotional to make a clear objective decision. But I just said, hey, I'm not gonna go down this road, and I tried to bow out of the text thread.
Yeah. So Dave, how do you, what is your take?
Yeah. I'm going to try to be as impartial as possible. What I mean is I will sometimes not, if it's like, let's say if it's a patient, a therapist, whatever, I will be over communication, over text, over phone, over email, however we're communicating the issue is going to be like very, whatever is, by the books, whatever they signed for, like the onboarding, the standard operating procedures, like whatever it is, like very black and white and without the emotion, at least in the beginning. I will then handle the communication. Then I'm going to go to Annie and be like, I let the emotion out, and I'm like, this person is pissing me off, and here's why, and this is the 4th, 5th, whatever time about communication breakdown or whatever, and they know better, and it's pissing me off, and they started great, and right? So I do let the emotion out.
You have to.
But I hold it together somehow with some of these challenging, annoying situations. Like another thing, like I can say it like as discreet enough. We have a patient that pays a lot of money out of pocket, and for whatever reason, like we charge them out of pocket, but then they are able to submit the super bills, even though like we're not billing their insurance. So they're submitting the super bills for potential reimbursement consideration. And they live in an $8 million apartment. It's like, okay, so right. Yeah. So, but one of the family members will send me a lot of texts and emails about timely super bills to be emailed to them for reimbursement consideration. And then, so I respond to them like, on it, we'll have it sent by, midnight tonight, or it'll be sent in the next 48 hours or whatever. Like right. But then I say to Annie, I'm like, you gotta be like, this is BS. And like, I let out the emotion elsewhere. Hopefully that's healthy. I'm letting it out somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't allow it into the therapist or the patient or client communication. I don't know. It's just the way I'm built. Like I have thick skin. I've had, coaches, baseball coaches over the years that were super aggressive in terms of language and, repercussions and, that type of stuff. And, if we, in practice, we make an error and the whole team's got to go run laps around the whole field. Like it's just stupid things like that. And so when interacting with a therapist or a patient or client, I'm able to hold it together, be really, really firm, defend my position if it's like a conflict or whatever, or say here's my expectations, like our expectations as a practice is this, and then you keep doing down here or whatever, like however we're responding to whatever the situation is. But then externally or even privately or publicly with you guys, I let the emotion come out.
Jimmy?
Yeah, 25-year-old Jimmy told you to stick it to your face because I'm awesome and you suck. And 45-year-old Jimmy realizes it's not even about like, what is the goal of the situation? Is it to let others know you suck and where I think I am and where I think you are? No, 25-year-old Jimmy had no problem doing that. 45-year-old Jimmy is like, the purpose of this is to convey information and to get that person to know or do something, right? Hopefully positive. Like, and Adam Grant has a great 13 words. Did you ever hear this thing? He has, he used 19 words. This was done in research. I'm giving you, these were scientifically proven to improve receiving feedback. You ready to write these down?
Receiving feedback.
Receiving. So if you're going to give feedback to someone, and this is obviously internal that you are superior to, like you couldn't give this to a client in that situation. But the client could give it to you because you're working for them. And here are the scientifically, according to Adam Grant, social psychologist at Penn, 19 words. I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations and I'm confident that you can reach them. And then whatever you say afterwards, that's the spoonful of sugar, baby.
The spoonful of sugar. I thought you were going to say what comes after is the smackdown.
Here's
how you screwed up.
Yeah, no, that's
here's how I'm pissed off at you.
right. No, the setup is sort of the spoonful of sugar, and then whatever you put in it, But it sets it up, which is like, whatever you might hear after this might be difficult. You might not be expecting this. You might not like it, but it's because I have high expectations of you and I think you can reach them, which is why I'm giving you this. Like I'm not holding it back.
Now I didn't know
Jimmy.
I didn't know those 19 words, but I will say I have said, I know you can do better. I know you can achieve this. I know this is within your capacity. If I didn't, I wouldn't even care. We wouldn't have this conversation. I've said that to my kids. I've said that to, employees and other people. I just always find it fascinating how people respond to Dave's point. Yeah. I think I've never been a great athlete, but I think sport gives us so much exposure to different coaching models and different coaches, different communication under pressure. And either you develop certain coping mechanisms or don't, but the idea is I watch my kids go through sports that I never went through. I see them in situations where high pressure, big expectations. I see how they handle it. And I just love it because I know that this is going to help them for the rest of their life. These are the lessons that they're going to take with them to the end.
Sure. One reason for sport. It's humaning under pressure.
Dave?
I'm just rereading this quote. I love it. So I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations and I know you can reach them. Because as of right now, the situation we're talking about, you have not
reaching them.
You have not reached these expectations.
You can reach them.
So here, by the way, complete sidebar. I don't want to get into it too deep, but sometimes it happens very infrequently. But I've had a team member here or there where they don't acknowledge the shortcoming. They don't take responsibility or accountability for the shortcoming. And that is what has sent me. That's where I'm trying to hold the emotion in. And that's where I have to say point blank, like, you have not taken responsibility or accountability for this challenge, this shortcoming and expectation.
Yeah. And that person, no matter how much energy you put into them, you will not get any more mileage out of them. Right. Like, if you can't see it, like, I'm real sorry, but I don't know what to do with you. Like, You know, when you guys were talking about, Tony, when you were talking about hiring and politics, and I think I mentioned this before, I did, right? With you, or maybe it was someone else. I don't know. I talk a lot. But it's like the Herb Brooks idea that was part of that movie Miracle on how he recruited the team. He wasn't looking for the best players. Like, he wasn't ranking skill. He was like, I forget, 19 or 21 players who can be, I am recruiting the best team. If he was doing track athletes, he would look for who could run the 100-yard dash the fastest. But as soon as you enter a baton into it, or, you know, famous, like Disney has all the good movies, right? Cool Runnings. I need 4 dudes who can work together and push a sled and pilot the sled and be a unit. Business is not track athletes. So that's another way of looking at, like, I have my SCS and I've got 17 publications, and I'm like, cool story, bro. How do you interact when stuff goes sideways? 'Cause it will. Are you the glue guy? Are you the 12th man on an NBA team? But why are you there? Why are you getting $2 million a year? You're the glue dude. You're the guy who keeps the star player from going to the club at 2 a.m. Is that worth $2 million? Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, what was the thing we wanted to talk about and we stopped short last time? We need a virtual assistant.
Yeah. We
need
have to
an
play back the
intern.
tape. Man, I can't. It's on the tip of
We'll
my
talk
tongue.
about your new segment. I will go look because I have tape from the last episode.
Well, you were just mentioning a couple things that reminded me. So I'm pitching you guys a new potential segment called, what did I say? Profitability problems.
Yeah.
Well, do the name last. From my experience, find the name last. Pitch the idea first.
So here's a couple shockers. Okay, you guys know Mark Cuban, right? Owner.
Yeah.
He previously had owned the Dallas Mavericks for about 23 years. Guess how many years that team was profitable? Meaning they turned a profit. 23 years he owned the team.
23.
This is public
The
data.
answer is going to be like 23 or 1, like, or 0. Like, it's a trick question. 23, all of them.
2 years out of 23.
Which years?
The team, I don't know specifically. Probably the year or two after they won a championship ring. So probably after that, with the merch sales and
so that means they lost
sales.
Money. Like, I don't understand how profitability. Like, when people use terms like that, sometimes I'm like, wait, so they lost money 21 years,
or broke even, or close to it. Yeah. So they covered all their overhead expense, their payroll, their whatever, the media rights, their the rent if they don't own the stadium, and all that type of the property taxes, whatever. But they didn't have enough ticket sales and merchandise sales and income to have some surplus in cash that then they can either Mark Cuban could have taken it out. He could have taken that cash out and invested in other companies with it. He could take that money out and put it into some other financial vehicle. He could buy real estate. He could do whatever. So there was none left over. So he just mentioned this, I don't know, in the past week or two, and I wanted to bring it up to you guys. There's some other examples, but there's some folks from time to time that reach out to me in the physical therapy world. And by the way, this is not just physical therapy. This is a ton of businesses. I think this is something that's not talked about. So you pay yourself some amount of money. Typically, if you have minimal to no profit, like, you're going to be the last one. Your income might actually be hit. You're going to pay your team whatever you pay. You're going to, whether it's suppliers, it's, overhead, pay your lease, your property tax, whatever, all your, your marketing, your payroll taxes, like all that type of stuff. And then whatever's left over at the end of the year, whether it's a distribution, an owner draw, whatever, like however you're set up with like a PLLC or an LLC or whatever your business is. It's wild that there's so many businesses and practices that are not profitable. And I wish I could mention names. I can't, because I have folks from time to time that reach out to me, small practices and also big practices, multi number of practices, pretty big in the Northeast region, had reached out, and like had, they're declaring to the IRS that they have like 5 or 10K in net income. 5 or 10, but their top line is like somewhere between $5 and $10 million in top line revenue. It's insane. It's like, where does the money go? Where is the money? Now, here's an example. I don't know, like Josh Funk, he's awesome. I've had him on my show. I don't know anything about his finances. We've not talked about any of this. He keeps opening locations. I think he's up to like 14 or something locations. Just from outside externally, I'm just making a guesstimation. I'm assuming, so they're obviously profitable. He takes profit, and it probably, I'm assuming, I don't know, Josh, but it looks like this. He takes the profit from these other locations, and instead of being taxed on that, like he'll get taxed on the profit of the previous locations that he already opened, and that they're profitable and they're generating money. And he's probably taking some or all that cash, and then he opens the next location, the next location, the next location, potentially. That's what it looks like. So he's in growth mode and he's growing. But there's other therapists, as I mentioned to you guys in the private chat here, that like they'll reach out and they got 5 or 10 or 15 or $20,000, 5 or 10 or 15 or 20,000 Instagram followers. They got a really sleek, awesome looking Instagram, and they're not profitable. It's like, I don't know, like instead of having like a Kim Kardashian Instagram, why don't you focus on actually having profit? Like it's insane.
What were you going to say, Jimmy?
Yeah. I wrote a post this morning, not before we knew we were going to share this. And I said, some people aren't going to like this, but it's true. It's wild how many brilliant healthcare providers are stressed about money. Like, where's all the money going in my practice? Stress. Sometimes can I make payroll? And you look at that highlight reel and you're like, that person must be rolling in dough. And you don't understand that that person might actually not be. Like some of the biggest organizations. I mean, look at like huge organizations. I won't mention them by name, but like big ones, huge losses. Like, where did it go? Somewhere, something in the system wasn't designed right, because the system produces a result that it's perfectly designed to produce. And it does. And if you're not looking at, if you're going in with heart and not numbers, I've been guilty of this myself. You can mess up numbers. They're easy to mess up.
Yeah. And I think we still have this false comparison of, well, you're smart, so you should be successful.
Well, that's
you're
right.
Smart, so you should make lots of money. And we know that that's not how it works. I mean, we know that there's a poor correlation between intelligence and financial success. So first we need to
I really I'm writing in Tony's voice, or Tony's speaking in my voice. Right. I said, because you're smart, sometimes that intelligence makes it harder to say, I've always been the doctor. I've always been the smart one. Therefore, I should be able to figure these things out. And you could, but you only had to have 100% bandwidth. Like, I use this demonstration with a flashlight. I'm like, you can only really be shining your light on one thing at a time. There's no such thing as multitasking. There's multi-doing. Hire someone to do this because it's important. Don't do it.
Well, and sometimes you might need some financial person. Other times you might need like a business coach. Maybe you need Sturdy McKee. Maybe you need Jamie Schreier. Maybe you need someone that has been where you're trying to go, and they can be an external set of eyes on your books and what they'll find, or your books or your whole process. Right. And then they might find like, oh, here's like your choke points. Like here's where, like, here's the bottleneck. And so oftentimes the bottleneck is actually the actual practice owner that's in every single department.
And how hard is that to wedge out? That's the hardest one, right?
It is impossible. That's how it's impossible.
Do you just keep sending them like the Spotify playlist where it's just Taylor Swift singing that song? It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. It's like, that's you. You're the problem.
On loop.
Sorry. The problems will continue until you understand that you're the problem. Sorry.
Well, it takes a big, mature person. I am not mature enough to fix my own problems. I openly admit that.
Yes, you are.
We have had many non-profitable years. I would be far more successful if I was willing to turn the spotlight on myself. And I think first we have to admit, like, there are things in our blind spots that we just can't see. There are things that we see and choose to ignore. Like, there are plenty of things that we're doing to ourselves, but man, it's hard. It takes a big person to let somebody come in, shine the light on all your flaws, pop your pimples, and like clear this stuff up. But once you get it done, it's a completely different world on the other side. And so I love the segment. I think it'd be great. I used to mention zombie clinics because I said, look, if you guys weren't digging into your own pocket, your business would be out of business. The fact that nobody wants to buy your business, it's reflective of saying you don't have a business. You have a money pit. It's a hobby. You're losing more money than you're making. But then the minute we get into, and we can talk about this, the minute we get into making the changes that would actually turn a business into a business, everybody freaks out. So I had shared a post yesterday. I said, look, you could probably train a cat to fetch a stick, but it's way easier to train a dog to fetch a stick. And it's impossible to train a fish to fetch a stick. And my point in saying that was, why are we browbeating therapists who are not natural born salespeople into trying to sell things that they would never buy themselves?
Yep.
Most therapists, there are some out there, most will not spend $150, $200, $300 on a session. Most will not. I said there are some out there who will. But your typical, insurance-based model therapist is not going to spend that money. And so we're trying to get them to sell cash services. We're trying to get them to sell self-pay Shockwave and NewFit and all these other, technologies out there. I bet if you just found a salesperson that you could bring in that's a true born salesperson, your profitability and revenue would explode. And before you guys chime in, the best example are these young kids, and I've got one in my family, I know it, these young kids that are selling solar. They're selling bug pest removal or bug whatever. They're
going
selling
door to door?
grass. Huh?
They going door to door?
Yeah. Door to door. Selling, lawn maintenance, selling tree trimming. These guys are doing $300,000 to $400,000 a year, working just the summers between college classes. But, bring one of those guys into our business and see what happens. It would blow the doors off of the business because they're not emotionally attached to it. They're not, driven by these insecurities like the therapist, me included, are. What do you guys think about that? Bueller?
If you can do that, like Tony said, you have a family member like that in your family. Those types of people will never be out of a job.
Yeah.
I was at a large physical therapy organization. I was in a communications role and I had 3 managers in 3 years. And the third manager was like, I'm going to rein this kid in. And we had a sit down and he was like, Jimmy, I like what you do. I'm figuring it out. I'm not a communications guy. Probably a red flag. I have a manager who doesn't understand what I do. He's figuring it out though. And he's not asking me to help him figure it out. But he's like, what I did notice is you're not great at spreadsheets. I shit you not. This was the conversation. He was like, if you ever want to be VP of communications at an organization like this one or similar to it, you got to get better at spreadsheets. And I said, I never said I wanted to be VP of communications. You are assuming that because you went to business school and got promoted that I want that. I want to do more of the stuff that you are still figuring out. Happy to explain it to you. But okay, I will take this constructive criticism because he didn't say this, but he should have said, I'm giving you these comments because I have high expectations and I'm confident you can reach them. He didn't say that. He was essentially saying, with lack of a better term, get your shit together and be better at spreadsheets, to which I said, okay, I acknowledge I am crappy at spreadsheets. May I follow up with a question? See, what he really didn't understand is I'm in the business of questions, right? And I said, are the spreadsheet people getting better at communications? Of course not. And help me understand why I'm getting better. Since we already paid that spreadsheet person, and to them, spreadsheets are like candy. Like, hey, here's a spreadsheet guy, and he's like, oh my God, blah, 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 just like that gif of the cat jamming on the keyboard, and they're like, I love this. I can't wait to come on. Do you have any more spreadsheets for me tomorrow? Meanwhile, you giving me a spreadsheet, I'd rather be kicked in a place that you don't want to be kicked. I just don't want it. And his answer was, but you should do this.
But what you didn't realize, Jimmy, was he was opening a door for you. Who's that girl on TikTok and Instagram that makes like millions of dollars on spreadsheets?
Oh, wait. We're talking about different girls on Instagram. Which one's your girl on Instagram?
There's a woman who has an account. It's all short videos. She makes a ridiculous amount of money talking about like Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets and formulas and all this stuff. Like 7-figure incomes just from spreadsheets. He was just trying to prepare you for that.
Could care less. This was the girl I was talking about on Instagram, which is how to say this professionally.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
someone's like, hey, someone in this situation, I would go to her and I would write to her and be like, Laura, my boss just told me that I need to get better at spreadsheets, but I'm not in a spreadsheet role. And she'd be like, I love that, communication and that feedback. And I will take that and think on, I'm not doing a great job. This is why Laura's great, but she'd turn it around where she'd put it right back on them, but professionally. So this is her only job. She just, how do you say that professionally? And how do you flip it around? I did not last much longer under this person's tutelage because I learned nothing. But neither did he. So, hey, nary the twain shall meet. Good luck.
All right.
All right. So are we still on the profitability problems?
Yeah.
I mean, we could come back to this more and more in the future. It's just, it's crazy that, and maybe it's the model, maybe it's your in-network contracts, maybe it's the way your schedule is set up with like 1 hour slots instead of like 30 or 45-minute slots. Maybe you're overpaying folks. Maybe you're paying folks properly, but they're not producing enough over what the cost is to have them as the overhead of their employment salary and all their expenses, their software seats and all that type of stuff. They're maybe not producing enough. And if they're not producing enough, is there an issue with completed plans of care? If that's not the issue, is it like a marketing issue? Are there not enough leads and patients being converted and being evaluated that come in? Is it some of your therapists are billing 4 units on average per visit across, months or years. And some therapists are billing, 2.25 units per visit on average across 3, 6, 9, 12 months or whatever. Those are the types of things like I would potentially do to like kind of break down and find out like what are the issues? Like where is the issue? How do we spot and find the issue? And again, yeah, if you're in that situation, you probably need some coach or not me. I'm not looking to do it, but you're probably looking to find some coach or consultant or someone to help you find out what the issue is, so that you might be able to fix it. Because owners think that they can fix on their own, but they've been Groundhog Day for 2, 5, 7, whatever years. So oftentimes you might need some external support or some external help on it.
The challenge. Go ahead.
So we're pitching a segment. Like you want to do recurring. This is like Ask Dave. Are we having people write in? Yeah, we should.
Yeah. I mean, so many of these things I see on the internet or online or whatever. Okay. Here, like another example, like independent practice owners, like that have 5, 10,000, whatever Instagram followers. And then they reach out to me for a job, but online, it looks like they have their own virtual coaching or I don't know, like online job or online role or, telehealth PT or whatever. And so like, what's up with that? Like why they're fronting almost like they have
that person is selling something that someone else is probably like. I know people who are selling video production services and their videos are great because someone else does them. And then they look in the camera and they go, follow me and I can teach you how to do it. They're not wrong. Like they're showing you, I can do this for you. It doesn't mean they're necessarily the expert in that. They've just figured out the system, right?
So let's do it. Let's pitch it. If you guys are watching, listening, you have a business that's got revenue, but is not profitable enough, not as profitable as it should be, not as profitable as you want it to be. Reach out. Dave is the point man on this. Reach out, send some information. We'll keep it anonymous. But we'll discuss it on the show. The challenge I see in it, and I love the segment. I love the idea. I love trying to do that. The challenge that I've seen over the last 25 years or so is we're gonna see problems immediately. They're gonna be glaring, like huge levers that could be pulled very easily. But in my experience, if you have those problems, you're either not willing, not capable, or just not going to pull the levers that we recommend. It's like the patient that walks in my door who they're coming because they want to feel better, but they're not interested in doing the things that I would recommend for them to feel better, And so it's like, well, why are we here? Why are we doing this? What's going on? The person who does best, truthfully, and I've got 2 or 3 of them right now, the person who comes to me with hip pain, back pain, whatever, they're already working out and they love working out. They're already eating well and they love eating well. They're already prioritizing sleep and mindfulness and family, and they love it.
Yeah.
Those are the people that come to my clinic and do amazing. They're already doing the stuff that they're supposed to be doing and that they need to be doing, and they want to do more of it.
It's a course
And
correction.
so the person that needs to do a 180, they're the ones that are going to be the most challenging and probably not going to get the best results. But other people will learn from those experiences. So if you guys want to send your information in and directly connect with us, I know these guys, we get a ton of inbound messaging. We get a lot of questions. We'll do our best to kind of pick the ones that's going to help the most people. But I think it'd be a cool segment. I would love to do it.
And you can do it anonymously. Like, we're not going to like the people who are brave enough to be like, dude, I have a problem. Like, number one, you're closer to solving that problem just by like saying it out loud, right? The first step is admitting you have a problem. Those are the last people I'm going to bag on. Like, you can't. Like, if you do, like, you're a douchebag. Like, those are the last people you should bag on. Like, oh, you've been doing that? What are you, an idiot? It's like, they didn't know, bro. And at some point, you didn't know either. So zip it. So yeah, totally anonymous, would not reveal our sources. That would not be the thing that we would do. I wouldn't do it. These guys wouldn't do it. What do we call it? Now we need a name.
Let's have a naming contest.
Tell us what we should call it.
I like profitability problems because it's very simple and straightforward, but
profitability solution.
If anyone in the audience has a suggestion, let us know.
So when I hear profitability problems, the first thing I thought of was I'm having problems because I'm too profitable. That's just what came to my mind.
Which is so rare these days, I'm telling you.
And the first thing I thought was Dave the Prophet, but spelled Prophet.
Oh.
Prophet.
Oh.
But wise beyond your years. Like
the Prophet David.
All right, real quick. On Thursday's episode last week, I shared some of the long form ad copy. I know this is super tiny. I don't know how to zoom in on it. Okay. I've been doing more of this. So context for this, as we wrap up the show, Jeremy Sutton shared a text message that he received where somebody had said that they were able to go back to church. And so, it was great. It was inspiring. I grabbed Jeremy's screenshot of the message. I put it into ChatGPT. I did my usual prompting. It generated a long form ad. Then I said, generate an image of a geriatric woman walking to a church, put a cane in her hand. And this was the image that it came up. I'm not showing you guys the ad or the image. I already shared that. What I'm trying to show you guys is the responses that I got. So this top one says, Tony, what you're doing is awesome.
Right.
And then the next one says, what a wonderful program. My God, bless it richly
allow his sheep to gather as a flock. He intends them to be prayer, worship, and fellowship.
Okay, so here's the deal. Clearly, this is resonating with the people that are seeing
almost too much. Almost
no such thing. What's really interesting, though, that first comment, I covered up the names because this is important. That first comment comes from a practice manager of a primary care physician group that has 5 or 6 physicians in the group.
Oh, bingo.
Yes. So the whole idea here is, this post, my Facebook page, I just checked it before we jumped on, is at like 1.8 million views.
Crazy.
A couple of the videos and reels just got like 300,000 views, 100,000 views, very quick, great growth. Now I throw something like this in front of it. This one only has like a couple thousand views, but the point is these are views from the right people. And what I also did with that is I had ChatGPT generate the ad copy. I added context from real life experiences. I know people that from COVID, they stopped going to church. This is a huge part of their life. These are individuals that would go to mass every single day. They don't go anymore. I've talked to real patients who say, I don't want to go in a wheelchair. I don't want people, I've seen people fall at church. I don't want to be one of those people that falls at church. I grab all of those real experiences. I put it into ChatGPT. I allow it to process and understand real situations when it generates the long form post. Then what I did was I read that post to two women that were in the clinic. We were doing patient care. I was working with them. And I said, hey, take a look at this. What do you guys think of this? And like, it resonated. It hit home with both of them. Both of them said the same thing. They were like, yeah, that's exactly me. I stopped going to church because I can't walk from the car to, get inside the building. My church doesn't have a ramp. And even the ones that do, the ramp is too steep. So I'm like, all right, we've got the copy. Now, it doesn't have to be church. It could be sport. It could be recreation. It could be travel. It could be anything that is important to a specific demographic. But the idea is, if you're not using the technology, the innovation, the advancement we have out there, you're just making life that much harder, And so I wanted to share that because look, I have not booked an appointment because somebody saw that post, but I do have office managers from very influential referral sources that are seeing and commenting on my posts.
You write or share or say something for you, but if it resonates with someone else, you're doing it for, there's that connection. There's that media that's social, not social media. People want to do the social media. That's not it. It's media that's social. So obviously that resonated. And Dave is, Tony. Tony's now a shepherd. We know Dave is the prophet. We'll figure out what Jimmy is.
Tony the shepherd, Dave the prophet, Jimmy the voice.
The voice. we should have a church theme.
We should own a church. Look at Kendrick's comment. Thank you, Kendrick Taylor, for commenting live and being here. He said earlier, LOL. Yeah, there are so many loopholes in business. I've seen people in business that are church owners. They report as if profits are donated to the church. It blew my mind.
There was a big movement back in the 80s. Firemen and cops were getting ordained as ministers and starting their own churches. So there was a dude that they would pay to come to different firehouses and be like, here's what you say, here's what you do. You fill out this paperwork to the point that the city was like, this isn't it. Like, stop it. Like, this is a loophole. So yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, it's a deduction or a write-off when you agree with it. And it's a loophole when you think it sucks. You don't like it when you think it's someone else getting away with something, but if you're doing it, it's a write-off. It's in the rules. Yeah, it's a rule when they're doing it too. You just don't like it, so you call it a loophole.
All right, guys, let's wrap up the show. I'm going to let Jimmy do the closing. I'm going to do the parting shot first. So I am hitting the road as soon as I close this laptop. Spring break, full family in effect. I'm going to be out of commission for a few days to a week, but I just want to say, we have access to technology that would have been sorcery 100 years ago. There is so much. And as much as you hear all of the fear and all of the stuff going on in media right now with, stocks and investments and tariffs and all, none of that. Somebody, I think his name was Frank. Yeah, Frank shared a post about tariffs and how they're going to affect you. They're not going to affect me at all. It's not going to make any difference. The fact of the matter is, we live in the best time of human history ever. Let's appreciate that. Let's take some time to reflect, whether it's reflect on business, reflect on family. And, you guys either handle the show without me or bring in a guest, but I wish you the best and I'm going to enjoy my trip. Dave, what you got?
Oh, man. First of all, I was going to say, Tony, next time on Thursday, but now you're out for a week. Then next time you're back, I think the audience I would be interested to see how you took that and put it in the ChatGPT. You share your screen, you say, hey, I'm taking this Jeremy Sutton text message, and what are your prompts to then get the copy for the ad? I'm a nerd about that stuff. Maybe no one cares about that, but I think some PTs would benefit from that. Maybe in a week or two when you get back. Another sidebar. We previously talked about acquiring or buying a hospital for the hospital contracts. Now we're talking about maybe buying a church. Maybe we could buy a Catholic hospital and we buy both. That's my parting shot.
Oof, write that down. I would say jump in and do the thing. The concept is called eat the frog. Have you ever heard of this one?
Yeah.
Eat the frog is like the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is like you do the thing that you're going to avoid all day. You know, you need to get it done. So just avoid it. We're saying eat the frog on tax day too, right? April 15th. It's tax day. So I was looking at this event that I'm going to in Chicago and I was like, I don't know. I need to do something. Is this the right thing? And I was like, you know what? Just decide and jump in. It doesn't matter what the frog is. Just eat it. Get it out of the way. Like digest it. Get it done and you'll be better off for it. Tune in Thursday to see who our secret guest is going to be. It's so secret. Dave and I don't even know who it is yet.
Or if we have juicy topics, it might just be Jimmy and I rolling.
Yeah. I will be live from Chicago, so I might be in a deep dish pizza coma. Although my hot take is Chicago doesn't have deep dish pizza; it has round lasagna. It's not pizza; it's lasagna.
It's not pizza.
On the socials, Dave Kittle, Tony Maritato, and PT Pintcast. We'll see you guys next time. So serious.